Look at this. We move up our screen like this. It now looks like I have the Enterprise docked at my station. Woohoo! There we go. Hey, you chickadees. I'm Lay Rooster, and welcome to the Hen House. We're back for another video about some basic crewing and officer use for the early game. We want to talk about some of the issues with how to crew for mining, which you do a lot in the beginning of the game and later on, how you crew for hostile hunting, as well as basic PvP setups. These are applicable to early on in the game. They apply later, but we get to build from that with some more advanced setups in another video. So we're going to get started with that. But before we do, please make sure you like this video. Give it the thumbs up. Ring that bell for the notification so you'll know the next time I go live with a video. And subscribe to this channel so that you can follow me and support me. It helps me a lot. I'm trying to push on getting more subscribers, and you can help out with that just by that subscribing, and it's free. Anyway, we'll have links in the comments below about to my Discord and my Twitch streams where you can catch other stuff and hang out with me live. But let's get into the video. Okay. So to start, I think we'll go over, we're going to love our Enterprise over here, but I've got two different accounts I want to show you to look at that. Let's start with mining. Okay. So flip over the screen. Here we go. Had to move myself around to a different part of the screen so you could see the stuff that I wanted to show you. All right. And rocking the Spider-Man shirt. So happy on that. So woohoo. Spider-Man. Okay. So we've got our ships here, and this is my baby account, level 14. So I have little stuff. I wanted to be able to show you some things here related to that. So when we look at it, we're going to look at our miners. I've got a Fortunate here because that's as high as I can go on a 14. You can get to the Envoys at 16, and of course, they're more versatile. And then beyond that, the Horizons, etc. The North Stars at 18. But we want to talk about what you're doing basics so you understand that, because you can build on those foundations and carry them forward into the 20s and 30s and beyond, to infinity and beyond even. Okay, so one thing to know about your miners, it's going to be hard to show on here though, is each mining ship has a specialty. All right, so when we look at the Fortunate, you'll see over here it says Parsteel Mining Laser, meaning the mining rate of Parsteel is increased by 100%. Just know it's better for Parsteel. Okay, but when it's your base, you're going to be mining everything with this when you're under 16 anyway, so that doesn't matter. But I want you to be thinking about what mines what best. Okay, because that's going to come into play. So when we look at our officers, I've got some various mining officers, and I wanted to show on the 14 account as well, because this low account has most of these officers, and you will have them too. When we look in to our, let's go over to how we get our officers in the recruit section under standard recruits, which is, this is no matter how little you're paying or how little you're playing, you're going to have access to these standard recruit pools periodically. You'll see these three blue officers. I know I'm obscuring a little bit with the video, but those are all mining officers, and they're the rare pulls that you have a chance to get, but you will get them from pulling these orbs. And then we'll see some others, some green officers, and then like here, mining officers like Domitia and Kabich and Helvia, or Kabish, maybe I should say. YouTube. I'm not trying to cuss. No. All right, let's see here. So you got, and the new next generation officers and everything. So they're in here, and when you pull, you're gonna get these characters. And we're gonna be talking about characters that you can farm from here for the most part to make use of. So let's look. So when we go back into managing our screen for our officers, one thing, what are you mining? All right, so that's the first question. Am I mining Parsteel, Tritanium, Dilithium? Am I looking at 2-star, 2 or 3-star gas or ore or crystal? Dear me. All right, I should know. I farm that most of the time. I am blocking part of this because of what I want to show you. So let me move Kabish over here. All right. On the 3 officers of your bridge. All right, we're moved over a second. I'm going to have to move again, but it's difficult to show you the whole screen like this. So, anyway, so I've got 3 officers up here on the top. These are your bridge officers at the top. And so we have Helvia is your captain. All right. So now I move down here. Wibbly woobly, I'm moving all over the place. I'll figure out how to edit some of this stuff in and we'll see. All right, so Helvia is your captain here. So you have a captain, and then to the left and the right, you have the main bridge officers. So they're going to do the most things. What we see, what you see over here, where we're not seeing, is it tells you got a par still miner. That's the captain's ability. I'll show you by clicking info here. You can see that the top ability is the captain. It says Captain Maneuver, Par Steel Miner. Helvia increases the mining rate of the ship by 100% when mining par steel. Captain maneuvers are activated when an officer is captain of a ship. This can be a little confusing in the very beginning of the game. If this officer is not in the captain slot, which is this middle slot, like if we move her here, notice it changed right here. This is what it's reflecting. So it does not apply. However, down below, you'll see 3 insignias. Now, Helvia's is Gold Rush, and it's in the middle. As long as the cargo of the ship is empty, Helvia increases its warp speed by 75%. So notice that this one says, as long as cargo ship is full, Domitia increases its warp speed by 50%. And that's Domitia's officer ability. So the officer abilities are activated when assigned to the bridge of a ship. So the top 3 people that you put here are going to activate their officer ability, the secondary ability for the ship, but only the captain does the captain's ability. This makes sense when you think about it, but sometimes it's unclear. Now, of course, people down below don't do that, but they add to the beefiness on the attack, defense, and health sections of the characters. So be aware of that. All right. So with Helvia in here, she's a par steel, so she's going to increase the mining rate of the ship with par steel as the captain. Now, the others are in the same group with her. If you end up sorting by group when you do your officers, if I kick this guy off, T'Pring will show that he comes up first because he's in the same group. He's a group of miners. So that means, and you see the little electric energy thing, that indicates the synergy. You see they're getting boosted. She's getting boosted by having synergistic officers. So that can help too as well. But it's not like something that you always have to do. There may be reasons to pair up differently. So be aware of that. So we confirm that and we can look, because right where we're at outside of my base is not par steel, is tritanium. Okay. So when you click on your miner and you click on the node that you're preparing to farm, you'll see it says 960 an hour. And it'll take me just 9 hours and 22 minutes to fill the cargo. All right. And there's 9,000 here. So, all right, that's going to take a while. Now, if we look, I said be thinking about what you're mining, because if we look at Kabish, his captain ability is Tritanium Miner. All right, Kabish increases the mining rate of the ship by 40% when mining Tritanium. Okay, so let's make him the captain if we're going to farm par steel or mine par steel. And then let's look at that same node right here and notice that we're now going up to 1,920 tritanium an hour. Okay, so that's the simple difference from choosing the correct mining officer to captain based on what you're going after. Now this applies because they all have different things, so you want to be aware of that. Let's look again. I wanted to point out, so if we look at T'Pring, one of the rare officers, is why he's blue. He's a gas miner, so he's going to help you with increasing by, in this case, 40% when mining gas. And this one is Ston, who, sorry, not Packrat. He has the ore mining. And then there's another one, Barrett, who does the crystal mining as well. And so there's the 3 rares. So for each of the 3 G2 and G3 materials that you're going to be wanting. So it behooves you to use the right one, unless for some reason you're trying to be slower about it. There's occasionally a reason you want to do that. But typically you want to get as much as you can quickly, safely, and get out of there. So we'll look at that. Now, other thing to be looking at when you're thinking about mining. All right. Let's look. We've assigned our officers. Let's go to our details. You've got different stuff. You got your damage. If you're using a miner, unless you're using the North Star that you get later, which is a great ship, multi-purpose, and does a lot of battle stuff, then you're not worried about this. Okay. You're not worried about if somebody wants to kill your miner, especially a fortunate or an envoy, they're going to do it. Even a more powerful envoy or some horizon or something is going to blow you out of the water. So you don't have to worry too much about defense because you're not going to win in a battle if somebody's deciding to pick you off. And that's kind of important because when we talk about below decks people and how they boost, like look here at our strength of 7,552. When I take claw off, we go down to 7,237. So if I put somebody in there and it goes up, you put characters and that builds the strength. However, ain't nobody gonna be able to get beaten by my fortunate. They're gonna just pop shot me. Now that we have away teams, all right, and you're going to want to be using some of your lesser officers to send on those away teams while you're doing things like mining or farming hostiles or PvPing, you're going to want to be able to save some of those junkier officers, so to speak, in order to be effective in those away teams. Check my away teams video. I'll link it at the end. But don't worry as much on your miners there unless you're just trying. I guess at the low levels, you don't have to worry about your defense on your miners. We're going to talk about what you worry about. Later on, you may worry because in a field, when somebody's looking to pick somebody off, they will pick the weakest link. So if you're more beefy and defensed, they may attack someone else, and that helps you survive, but it doesn't help the others. But anyway, so now looking at the stats, what you do care about here, and a lot of people miss this. And when we talk about like row on servers and things like that, people get confused often in the early game. It's important to know your warp range so you can get places, but your cargo capacity, this is 21K here, your protected cargo, 2,450. All right. So I know that I have been the pirate, farming people who are overprotected cargo, which is OPC, or overprotected limit, OPL. That's the same thing. And usually with a lot of the row rules on servers, anytime you go over your protected cargo limit, you're free game and you're supposed to suck it up and know that you were going to get hit. That's generally the rule, although it's not the rule everywhere, and that's not a Scopely rule or anything, but that's typically what's going to happen when you're talking to people. So your protected cargo here is 2,450. That means if I send my ship out and I farm, once I get above 2,450, when somebody decides to pop me, all right, they get whatever cargo I have that's above that number. All right, the rest auto through Scopely Star Trek magic teleports to my base, so I get the protected cargo. Now that does mean that you generally want to have the highest protected cargo you can have, so that you're going to get, because that makes no one wants to hit you unless they're being douchey, which people do in these games for sure. But also whatever you have when they hit you goes back to you. So that's something else to consider. So when we look, if we're going to use Tritanium Miner Captain Kabish in order to get through this, we're going to look at what we have. Now, so here, to Pring, one of the things that makes him wonderful is his officer ability. Hidden Stash increases the protected cargo by 50%. So that's what we're talking about. Notice what we had before, 2460. We're going to bring him in. All right. And adding him as an officer, he's still giving synergy. And you can see that it changed here to indicate that the hidden stash is active. Let's confirm and look at the stats. When we go back here, it saves it. Now it's up to 3,675. So that's better, especially if your mining goal requires that you hit like 3,500 or something like that. You know that you can get to it before you max out your protected cargo. Essentially, with your mining, you want to go out there, mine up to your protected cargo, come back, unless you just don't care, or if you're doing some kind of mining event where you get credit for what you mined, even if you lose the stash, which does happen like on Latinum Mining Mondays. Now, also, Ston, who's our ore miner, has the pack rat ability, which increases the cargo size of the ship by 20%, just to be aware. So let's put him on as the other officer, and when we confirm, we'll go here and we're at 360.75. It can make some difference when we're starting to play with the math because there's percentages that increase the cargo hull size as well as the percentage of the cargo hull that is protected. So that can affect things. So you may end up doing something like this, all right, for some basic mining. And we would send him out. All right. So that's what you want to do. Now, when you're going over here, let's see. If we pop into midnight, you can see that it is 2-star gas system. And let's just look at that just to kind of bring home some of the components that we're talking about. Let's find a node. Here's a node. All right. Now, so we're at 1800 gas an hour when we're doing gas. Now let's flip over. And since it's gas, to Pring is our gas miner. So we'll flip him over. It changes the focus for the captain to gas mining. And we'll look over here. And again, now we're up to 3420 an hour. So that's 3420 an hour that we'll get. And on our protected cargo in this case was about 3600. So 1 hours of mining will fill up the protected cargo. You can set a timer by it, bring it back, and then see if you can get it again. Rinse and repeat, mining safely. So that's part of your beginning mining, and it applies the same way with ore for Ston or crystal for Barrett. All right, so let's look at that. Now, let's do a little flip over to my main account where I've set up some different ships. And whoosh, there we are. We got the Enterprise back. Yay. And let's look at that. I've got this access through my tablet, so a little different setup here. But I do like having the Enterprise there for you. So let's look at a few different things. I had my officers, because as we start to talk about hostiles, all right, we're going to talk about hostile and PvP next on this video. When we're talking about hostiles, you're going to hear that you need Pike and Moreau. And that's absolutely true. Here they are, Pike and Moreau. Pike is the ultimate captain for hostile hunting. All right. And Moreau is the one you want on his officers. And then in this case, I have Talon or I have Chen. And we're going to look at them and they're going to be very helpful. So Pike and Moreau, most definitely. However, like I can tell you, I think I was level 32 or 33 before I finally unlocked Pike I no matter how much I pulled and spent, the RNG gods were not aligned with me. And so I had other people leveled up and I didn't have Pike. So it took me forever. Now, once you get him, it's a wonderful thing. And just be aware, Pike Moreau and Talon, or Pike Moreau and Chen tend to be how you set up for optimal hostile grinding. But there are some other ones, and particularly since Pike and Moreau, they're mid to later game. So be aware of that. So we want to talk about, well, can't you farm hostiles before? Yes, you can. You should. And there are ways to do it. And there are things to do with that. So, popping back to my baby account just to prove what kind of officers that we do have. Let's look at my jellyfish here. All right. So you may have a Fendra or a Tala or a Turris, and eventually you can get that jellyfish for free. But let's look at these officers. So now we'll go into the battle triangle in a bit with PvP, but it does matter for hostiles. So let's look at the officer setup here. Now, Cadet Uhura, you get her in that standard recruit pack. Cadet McCoy, you get him. Chin, we talked about, and Talon, you can get all of these guys in the standard recruits. And so you will have them early on. They'll be some of the only characters you have. There's others because you can see here, if I do groupings, make it so I've got the general cadets, and they have some use, but again, they're not going to be your strong points. We now have the next generation characters, which again are going to have some similar uses, some others that we'll get into for the PvP setup, and some other kind of situation specific stuff. All right, but let's look. So looking at this, so Cadet Uhura, she's your Pike Junior. All right. So because if you don't have Pike, then you're using Cadet Uhura. And I used her into the 30s because I didn't have Pike. And later on, once you do have Pike, your second setup will include Cadet Uhura. So she's a good one. Level her up. All right, let's look at what makes her good. All right, she's got this scan the enemy captain ability. She's your captain here. Cadet Ahura decreases the weapon damage of the opponent's ship by 15%. All right, so she's decreasing the damage that they do in general weapon damage that they do against you. So if you're farming hostiles, you want to hit them and kill them before they do too much damage to you. Ideally, you want them to do as little damage as possible so you can kill more hostiles before you have to come home and repair or before you get blown up and have to repair. All right. She also has the increasing the shield health of the ship by 11%. So that's just going to make you more survivable, beefier shield. So that's good. It's defensive and does that. Now, Cadet McCoy is useful not because of his captain's ability, but because of this officer ability that he has, psychologist. All right. During combat, Cadet McCoy increases the effectiveness of the captain maneuver by 10%. What? Captain maneuver? Captain maneuver of the captain, which is Cadet Ahura's scan the enemy. So if it decreases the weapon damage of the opponent's ship by 15%, you'll get another 10% decrease added by Cadet McCoy. So that beefs her up. That's good. All right. And that does work. I think it was broken for a long time, but it actually works now. Now, then we look at the slot, the extra slot from the next group of the unknown recruits, Chen and Talon. Chen is wonderful. You'll use her forever. And Talon you're going to use particularly for swarms, which is not about in this video. But let's look here. So Chen, energy absorber. If the opponent is a hostile, Chen decreases the damage done by its energy weapons by 15%. Works against hostiles under level 50. This is a beginner video. You don't have to worry about level 50 right now. I don't have to worry about level 50 right now. All right, Talon, let's look at her. So, objective defense. If the opponent is a hostile, Talon decreases the damage done by its kinetic weapons by 10%. So that's going to be so one thing to know is what kind of ships are you going up against? Do they have kinetic weapons or energy weapons or a mixture of both? I don't know. Well, well, let's talk about it here. Let's look. So as to do with what we're looking at. So let me see if, and this thing always does this. Do, 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 do. All right, and we're back after some technical difficulties brought to you by Scopely and BlueStacks. Hey, Scopely, BlueStacks, please give me sponsorships and I'll talk a little nicer about you. But fix your game. All right, let's see here. Now we've got some things. We've actually got things working here. Okay, and so here is an interceptor. This is a Sulaban Nomad. All right, so he's an interceptor. Now I have a jellyfish, which is an explorer class. So first you'll notice this battle triangle indicator with the down arrow. All right, so here is the battle combat triangle. This is extremely important to know. When you mess up with this, you will not know why things are going worse if you don't understand this concept. All right, if I have an explorer like a jellyfish, then I have a advantage to beat up on interceptors. That's great. They're going to be easier to kill for me. They're going to do less damage to me, right? So that means if I'm trying to farm many hostiles, I want to use an explorer if I'm farming interceptors. Now, notice a battleship has an advantage on me, so on my explorer. So if I'm going up against battleships, I'm not going to last as long. Battleships are just going to have that advantage against my explorer. So if I'm going up against battleships, I need an interceptor. That would be the preferred way to do it. So this is part of, it's important to know that. Notice also that off to the side, because they don't apply in the same triangle, is the surveys, the armada targets, or the defense platforms. All right, so when you're thinking about what hostile am I fighting, what ship do you need? All right, so in this case, I can farm these interceptors. Now, so that's going to apply in PvP as well, particularly because then you're playing against people who actually might be fighting back or are equipping their crews in order to make it harder for you. So you really got to take every advantage you can get. All right, now, in order to show you what it looks like, to talk a little bit about that kinetic and energy difference, we're going to go over to the other server where I have to the other game where I have my ships a little better, so where I can have them loaded out. So you'll see here with the Tala that I had it loaded out with the Cadet Ahura, McCoy, and Chen. When we look at our weapons over here, And the weapons on the lower ships, the earlier ships that you have in the beginning, are pretty much one-trick ponies. They tend to be energy or kinetic, and that sort of thing. However, as you get higher up with the bigger ships, they have different types of mixes of kinetic and energy. So important to know. So this is a phase counter. This is energy. It's a phaser. All right, and look, it has another. If I can press the button, another phase cannon. So it's got phasers on this battleship. Now, if I'm fighting similar leveled battleships, I'm fighting energy. So if that's happening, then on Grace Chen's ability, which is Energy Absorber, is going to decrease the damage done by energy weapons. So that is effective for me, and that would be helpful. All right. However, if I had Talon, it won't be as helpful because here she is. She is decreasing the damage done by kinetic weapons. All right. So if I was fighting battleships which are doing energy damage, then decreasing the kinetic damage is actually completely useless because they're not doing kinetic damage. So you want to know who you're going up for. Typically, like later on when you're fighting swarms, they're using kinetic. They're interceptors. Interceptors tend to have a heavy loadout of kinetic, whereas battleships and explorers have to have more energy loadouts. So you want to be nerfing the type of energy or the type of damage that you're going to be receiving if that's what you're going for in your build. All right, so be aware of that. Now here's an interceptor, the Kira. I didn't have my Fendra. I think I scrapped it, so I didn't want to be able to show you on that. And if we look at those weapons, you'll see here, this is a photon torpedo. So think torpedoes are kinetic. They go boom. There's another photon torpedo, and then there's one energy bank here. So it's mainly kinetic. So if I'm attacking these types of interceptors, then I and fighting them, then I know they're going to hit me with kinetic energy. That's where Talon would come in to negate the kinetic energy. And again, if you put Chen on there, it's not going to help the same way at all. So, all right. So now we're starting to talk about PvP setup. Okay. So what do you do when you're fighting PvP? Well, in many ways, it's similar. It's similar, but let's see. If we were to look at this ship, the Tala, which you'll have in the early game, and let's notice some of these abilities. Okay. Chen is where it really comes out here. Let's see. Energy Absorber. If the opponent is a hostile, she decreases the damage done. If the opponent is a player, she does not do that. So putting Chen on there when you're fighting other players, maybe you're going to farm people who are over protected cargo limit. Maybe you're going to attack some people in some kind of skirmish or participating in some kind of war activity or any PvP events, though we don't have a ton of them. This is useless, right? So it's useless there. Now, same thing over here with Talon, who we talked about you'll be using if the opponent is a hostile. So these are specific officers for hostile crewing, not for PvP. Now, looking over at PvP setup, which this is an early setup, even though it's on the Kira instead of Fendra. I wanted to show you this team you will have, and I couldn't set it up on my baby account because I just don't have that many slots. So let's look. This is the glory and the kill grouping. So this is Vartok. Again, all the ones here are ones that you can have on your early accounts, and these guys are your beginning PvP setup crew. All right, so his captain ability is Interceptor Specialist. When inside an Interceptor, Vartok increases the weapon damage against players by 35%. So Vartok needs to be the captain of an Interceptor, and you need to be going against players, and then it'll increase the weapon damage. So that's good. See, if you're using him against hostiles, he doesn't work. Just like Chen doesn't work if you're using her against players. And then he's got a kinetic boost. If the opponent is a player, Vartok increases the damage made by the kinetic weapons of the ship by 20%. So again, loading him out to go farming and going up against players. That'll help you. So you're going to find people who have Pike Moreau Chen or Cadet Ahura McCoy Chen or Talon, and they're doing PvP. they are automatically nerfing themselves. You can get an advantage by using the right crews here. All right, so um, then we're looking at Rukor, who has the energy boost. If the opponent is a player, Rukor increases the damage made by the energy weapons of the ship by 20%. And we talked about that because does your ship have energy weapons? Otherwise, you don't need that boost and you can use something else. In this case, I have one energy weapon. Now, over here, Kamal, same in the Glory of the Kill, resists kinetic. If the opponent is a player, Kamal decreases the damage made by its kinetic weapons by 20%. So it's going to one's affecting the energy, one's affecting the kinetic weapons. So that kind of gives you some balance and some help. One increases your attack. You just want to make sure that you can take advantage of it. And so be aware of that. And I'm going to sort by group over here because we have you have like Vixis, who is also available in this group, and you will have, and she decreases the energy weapon damage of opponent players by 20%. So she would be a good one to slot in, depending on if you think you're coming up against energy, or you're not using energy weapons, and that sort of thing. So that is cool. Then you got your Claw, who increases the critical hit damage of the ship. So that can be useful too, and you can kind of mix and match them a little bit based on what's going on. Also, just note for this beginning crew that you'll have, because you'll particularly have these four that you see here on the screen, is notice also their captain abilities. Kamal is a battleship specialist. When inside a battleship, he increases the weapon damage against players by 20. So that's his captain ability. We already saw that Vartok does the interceptor boost. And then Rukor, the reason I put her up here is she's the explorer specialist. So inside an explorer, she increases weapon damage against players by 20%. So whatever ship you're choosing to use as your PvP setup, you're going to want to use the appropriate captain with their captain abilities to further boost. And then you can use some of the other groupings of these Glory and the Kill people to round out that party. And then down below, don't forget, you can put somebody strong in there and it boosts the stats between the attack, defense, and health, and the strength and power, which will give you a little bit of boost too. You want to be as strong as you can, especially when you're fighting other people, especially if you're trying to punch up against someone or last a little bit longer. So remember that for the ships. A lot of times you're going to be choosing the different types of ships based on what you think you're going to be attacking, what you think the other players are going to have that you need to attack. If you're farming survey ships that are OPL, well, they're outside the battle triangle, so you can use any of the ships, maybe the strongest ship you have, or the one that has the largest cargo hull, in order to pirate some loot. Different things like that will all come into play. But if you think about those things, that'll really help you. So be thinking about what you're mining, how the mining officers work, which way the ships affect that. Also, about your hostiles, the kinds of hostiles you're attacking, who's going to be hitting you, and having that crewing set up, as well as your PvP. These are your three areas of basic beginner play for crewing needs, and I hope that is helpful. We'll be talking more. There's stuff about how to crew for armadas, how to look at base rating, or special events and higher level PvP with the higher level ships, because then you start using some specialty areas, your morale builds and your burning crews and your hull breach and things like that. But you're not going to have those teams set up in the early game. And these types of setups are going to help you in the beginning. And once you get comfortable with that, you can really start to go beyond that and move forward. So I hope you found this video helpful with your beginning as a Star Trek Fleet Command commander. This will help you with crewing and getting a lot of your dailies done, making some completions, and leveling up the power of your base, your ship, and getting the things that you're needing resource-wise, whether it's by hook or by crook, our matey as a pirate, or doing mining and doing that more successful. So be aware of that, and look over here at the links that I have for my Twitch stream, where I stream Star Trek Fleet Command, as well as Marvel Strike Force and the occasional variety game, usually streaming Pacific time in the evenings after work and throughout the weekends. Make sure you drop a follow over there. Follow my Twitter, and make sure you subscribe to the channel here on YouTube so you get my next videos. Hit that like button so that I know that you're watching and checking things out. Drop a comment down below and let me know about anything you found helpful, anything you'd like to know more about in future videos, and just say hi as well. Make sure you come over and check us out on Twitch, and check down below in the description where you'll find, again, my a hyperlink to my Twitch stream, as well as to my Discord channel where you can come hang out with me and other good-natured gamers who want to help each other grow and kind of enjoy some shenanigans as well. So I look forward to hearing from you, and if you are coming over to Twitch from YouTube, please make sure you let me know in stream because I want to give you a special hello. So you take care and cock-a-doodle-doo.